started crying, thinking, wait, I don't have to just slowly die from here. I get to live. I don't have to hurt every day. I can, like, my body can match my soul. And that was one of the most awakening moments of my life.
Welcome to the Relaunch Podcast. And oh, so good, everyone. I mean, I don't know what you're doing, but you're going to want to really listen in, think about this conversation, think about the impact that it will have in your life. That's how good this is going to be. Because today I have an incredible guest joining us. Her name is Marcella. She is a fearless entrepreneur, advocate for women's empowerment. And after navigating a series of life-altering relaunches, she changed everything. And we're going to get into that. She has redefined what it means to embrace change. Her viral TikTok was a story that she got on and basically was talking about how she was feeling. It went into hormone therapy, sparked a movement, leading her to create a community of over, just in one area, I think there's like 800,000. In another, there's 50,000. I mean, and it just grows massively every day. And you're like, what is she talking about? What is she doing? You know what she's doing? She is literally doing what we're all thinking, and she's making it possible through the world's largest global directory for hormone therapy providers. Oh, yeah, you got it. We're going into perimenopause, menopause. We're going to be talking it up. We're going to get you to understand that you are not crazy. And she is here to share her journey to let us know that it's all going to be okay. So I got to say, Marcella Hill is here, and I have been looking forward to this specific show because I've gotten to know you. And even before we hit, go time on this one, I am like jonesing to find out more. So thank you again for being here.
Oh my gosh. I feel like, who are we talking about? Did I do all of that?
This is you, girl. I am like so fired up because the fact that your numbers speak volumes for what is going on in the minds of women. And I think you say it's like 35 plus. And I love because you're kind of tapped into Brene Brown, who says midlife is 35 until you die. And so here we are, but this has not been your journey all along. You haven't just been like, hey, I want to help women in their health and really get them through. It started a lot long ago with your significant relaunch, and I know there's a ton of them that we've discussed, but what do you think was the most significant relaunch story for you that brought you to where you are today?
Oh, wow. There's so many, but probably the most recent was, well, oh gosh, I'm like going to say it. And then I'm like, but the other one.
That's the problem. There's so many relaunches, as you and I've discussed, and we have so many like overlapping ones. We're like, I could talk about that. I could talk about that.
Honestly, this obviously the reason why I'm here is 2 years ago, I felt like I didn't know myself anymore. I felt off. It was so subtle. There were all these little things that I couldn't get myself out of bed. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm excited about life. I was writing a book. I was doing all these things. And I felt like I had done all this work to find myself. I felt peace in my soul. I was excited about who I was, but my body was not okay. I was falling apart, and it was so frustrating. I felt like I was dying. I felt like I had osteoporosis. Everything hurt, and it kind of didn't matter how motivated I was. I literally could not function. And I'd say that when it sounds so crazy, but when I started hormone therapy, it was like a few weeks in, I was out for a long walk. I realized my body didn't hurt anymore. And I thought maybe I could jog again. And I started jogging and just.
Okay, wait. We're not there yet. We're not ready to take the jog yet.
This is the good part.
Okay, keep going. And then I'm going to go backwards.
Okay, we're going to go back. But I started crying, thinking, wait, I don't have
Mm,
to just slowly die from here. I get to live. I don't have to hurt every day. I
mm.
can, like, my body can match my soul. And that was one of the most awakening moments of my life, in the sense that we don't just have to slowly hurt and sacrifice and die and just survive and endure life. Like, I can feel good. And that was probably a bigger relaunch to me stepping into my life and wanting to wake up in the morning, wanting to live, than even like leaving my first husband and getting a divorce. Like, that moment of hope was the biggest moment of hope in my life.
So when you started to think about like looking back, and I always think, hindsight is so great for all of us to go back and say, wow, you had the divorce. When you and I spoke, you said on the surface, you had a new husband, everything was great. What are you, 44? Is that right?
Yep.
You're 44 years old, and this all happened. When do you think things started to change for you with your body?
36.
36. So think about that. We've got 9 years. Is that 9 years?
Yeah.
No, 36, 40, 8 years. We've got 8 years. And when you start to look at you had it all, right? You had all this great success, you had the new husband, and you and I talked that on the surface it looked fantastic, but inside you're like,
Yeah.
what were you feeling at that point? What was really going on? What were the symptoms? What were you experiencing?
I think the first one was that I had no libido. I had no attraction. I had no desire. I literally thought, I don't love my husband anymore. So obviously, I think for a lot of
Mm.
women, when your marriage isn't going well, it's overwhelming. It takes over everything. It really determines your mood, your motivation. It is blinding when your significant relationship is not going well. And that was the loudest thing in my life, where my marriage was not working. No matter what I did, no matter what he did, it didn't seem like there was this wanting, this attraction, this desire, this thing that I remembered having for him just wasn't there anymore. And I thought, I guess I just
And
don't.
how long were you guys together at this point?
Let's see. So we've been together 14 years total. So it would have been, what, a good 6, 7 years in.
Okay. So it's still, I mean, relative, like, okay, the fact that you're like, wait, I'm not sexually attracted. And there was more going on with how you were feeling. Because as you said, when we've got 8 years ago, and before that, was it a slow roll into this or was it kind of sudden? What went down?
Well, all these things, they seem separate, right? So when you get out of bed and your feet hurt, you're not thinking that your feet hurting has anything to do with your libido, right? It's a separate issue. So you're taking ibuprofen. When your scalp starts itching, you're thinking, oh, I need to switch out my shampoo. Like, right? You're not connecting your dry scalp to your feet hurting. Those are different issues. Libido is a whole other issue. So you're dealing with these issues individually. Like, my legs itching every night. I'm not even thinking that has anything to do with my scalp itching. My legs just itch. My legs itch. So I'm just thinking I need to drink more water. I need to change my lotion.
Mm.
Then you have brain fog. So now dementia runs in my family. I am Googling early onset dementia. I don't think
Ugh.
dementia, or my lack of remembering my passcode, to whatever, has anything to do with my feet hurting, right? Like, none of these connect for us. We're all dealing with them on individual levels. We're scheduling individual doctor's appointments for every individual issue because nobody ever told us that this is just a transformation of midlife and hormones affect every single thing. If we knew
This
that,
is
we'd be like,
it's
oh,
unbelievable.
this is all
It's un-
hormonal, but we don't know that.
We don't, and we're going to go more into that. But back running, and you are crying, and you're saying, this is all like happening from that point. Super interesting because, as you said, that's really where the significant relaunch came in. Can you share with us how that led you to where you are right now and making such an impact? I'm sure there's people listening right now saying, my legs are itchy. I'm having this. Oh my God, my feet hurt.
Yeah.
My head's itching. What's going on? So, but there's that time period, and it's so like, it's not a long period. It wasn't a long time ago. This is something that you have literally masterfully gone through and figured out. And I know people are saying like, okay, how'd you do it?
Well, I mean, I got lucky. A lot of women find out they're in perimenopause, they go to doctors, they ask for help, the doctors aren't helping. So that's a typical experience for a lot of women. I got lucky that I had gone to my gynecologist. I asked her to check my hormones. She did. She came back. She said everything looks normal. So, of course, I'm thinking, well, then it's for sure my marriage, right? For sure, I need more ibuprofen. For sure, I need to work out and lose weight and have better habits and, like all the things that
Yeah,
we think
sure. The things that we're
are
taught that
me.
that's what that's
Yeah.
the problem, right?
Yep. And I was talking to a friend. I literally asked, where do I go to get antidepressants? Because I'm scared. I don't want to get out of bed in the morning. I don't know how bad this gets. I guess this is where we're at. Depression runs in my family. I just thought, well, here it is. It's my turn. And she said, didn't you get a hysterectomy about a year and a half ago? And I was like, yeah. She goes, you sound like me. It's your hormones. I was like, nope, my doctor said it's fine. And she goes, no, no, no. You need to go to a hormone specialist, like this this other place that does like Botox. And I was like, are you out of your mind? What, are you kidding? And she's like, trust me, just go. At this point, I didn't care. I called this clinic that
Yeah.
does, sexual wellness, hormone therapy. And it was the first person where I listed all of these symptoms. She asked me more symptoms I didn't even know were connected. And she goes, yes, we help with that. And I just cried on the phone, like, are you kidding me? I'm not crazy. I can just come in next week and you're going to help fix me. And she's like, yep. And that's what I did. And it was weeks later that I had that experience running. But what shifted significantly for me is that I ended up sharing this story on TikTok. And I was nobody on TikTok. I happened to tell this story, and the next day, 9 million views.
Do you
And
hear that, everyone? 9 million views. Because it is like the invisible crisis that's going on with women today. And you opened it up and said, you know what? This is what happened to me.
it makes me emotional every time I think about that day because up to that day, I did not know that I lived in a world where women felt dead inside. That was the day my
Mm.
world broke. I didn't know I was walking into 40 with a world full of women that felt like shit. I didn't know that
Mm.
that was our fate.
Mm.
I had no idea. And then we wake up to hundreds of thousands of comments of women saying, wait, I feel dead inside. Wait, I have no drive. I don't want to get out of bed. I have no hope. My body hurts. Everything hurts. I'm not sleeping. My doctor said this is just getting old. My doctor said just suck it up. My doctor said just do it anyway. My doctor said just drink wine and watch porn and just that's your job. I
Drink wine and
just,
watch porn. Oh my God.
yeah, it
I,
was devastating. And
I'm watching you. I'm watching you right now, and how emotionally raw this still is, and how people out there right now are literally like probably crying out loud as they're listening to you. Why are we dealing in such a prehistoric era around women and our bodies? And why don't you're saying the doctors are saying the doctors, and hey, my audience knows I've had issues with a lot of things down there, I'm still in perimenopause. Like, what? What the heck? And yet I'm like you were being, I think, oh, symptom, all these different things. I'm doing all these different things. You talk about hormone therapy. Tell us more for those that don't really understand what this is and how this really is shaping and helping people's lives.
Well, this is the crazy thing, right? Like, I'm just a regular girl in the middle of
Mm.
this whole thing. I didn't do any research before I went out and I was just like, put it in my body, like, put just anything. I didn't care, right? So when I went down this rabbit hole and I'm finding out that all these women aren't getting help, I just started picking up the phone and calling all these clinics that looked like mine, right? Because women are saying, where to go, where to go. And I'm thinking, like, how hard could it be? Like, just call it one of these clinics. And this is what sent me down the rabbit hole of learning the disaster that we're actually in, that this
Mm.
hormone therapy or hormones in general just aren't readily available for women. I started calling these clinics, asking doctors, what is the problem? Why don't people know about you? Why can't we find you? And
Mm.
in the end, all of these clinics that offer this type of help are just word of mouth. So a lot of women, if you're not in the cool girls club circle, you don't know that these exist. The other problem that I realized,
Does insurance pay for it?
not typically. So what's
Mhm.
really
This
confusing
is
is,
why I'm saying prehistoric.
yeah.
What the heck?
So
Like,
this is a massive, like, confusing conversation. And I'm probably not like the best well versed in this. This has just been from my view and my experience. There
but your
was,
directory, what you
yeah,
created came out of this confusion of
yeah.
like,
Women created women.
why don't people know? Why don't they know where to go? And that's where this passion. How many years ago did you set up the directory?
This was 2 years ago.
I mean, come on, everyone. This has been like 2 years. That's it. That's it. And so I've got to ask you right now. So again, when you said you were calling these places, how come people don't know? What light bulb went off in your head?
Well, honestly, what happened is all these women were like, where do we go? Right. And there was a woman said, she commented and said, oh, is this where I go? I'm in Pennsylvania. And she had linked something. And I remember looking at the clinic and I was like, I don't even know what that is. Do not go there. I have no idea. Like, we're talking about like men's testosterone clinics or something. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's where you want to go. And as I'm in this mix, I realized these women, how do we know where to go? There's no directory. I keep calling around being like, where's the link? Where do I send all these women? And I had written a book called Wake Her Up. And this had nothing to do with hormone therapy. It was just like my personal awakenings of finding my soul. I had a Facebook group called Wake Her Up that was there for my book, right? And
Mhm.
all these women were like, we have to meet. We got to hang out together so that we can compare notes. And I'm like, well, I have this Facebook group over here. If you want to come hang out over here. That group is now over 50,000 women across the globe. And what ended up happening, they all filtered in and everyone's just started sharing their hormone therapist. Like, this is where I go. This is the doctor that helps. This is the products I'm using. This is what's effective. And I just started gathering it and putting it on technically a link list, right? So you would go to my link tree and it'd say California, and it would have a link to a hormone therapist. It just got bigger, bigger, bigger to where there was 100 links in my link tree. And I was like, okay, we're going to need to move this to a website where people can put in their zip code
Yeah.
and actually
Yeah.
find a doctor that a woman has recommended. And so we
Yeah.
just built the site, and now you can go to wakeherup.co, and it's ended up being the largest directory in the world of hormone therapy providers that have been recommended by women.
So I got to go back because people are still probably thinking, well, what is the hormone therapy?
Right.
What will it do for, is this something that every woman should be doing? Is this like, when do you say, hey, this might be right for me?
Well, this is where it gets really confusing. So I have to back up way a long time ago, because the question right now is that, is it safe? A lot of doctors for the last 20 years have been taught that it's not safe. And that goes all the way back to a research study that's called the NIH policy. And that
Mhm.
was done in the 90s. And if you go
Mhm.
and do the research on that, what ended up happening is they did this massive study on
Mhm.
estrogen, and basically came out, the study was done wrong. They have now since rescinded it, but they didn't go back to all the doctors for the last 20 years and say, actually, that study was wrong that told us that hormones cause cancer. So it was presented wrong, it was done wrong, the information was wrong. And in one day, all of a sudden estrogen was taken off the table. Everyone thought hormones cause cancer. They threw it in the garbage. And for the last 20 years, nobody's had access to hormones. And now all of this research is coming out that it helps prolong your life. Like if you follow people like Kelly Catherson or Dr. Mary Claire, they get into the details of what hormones are and all the benefits of it, but it helps with your bone health, your brain health. It helps fight against osteoporosis and also your Alzheimer's, right? It is drastically beneficial to women's lives. Now, what I speak about is my own personal experience, and then all of these women that are in my groups, their experience, right? Like 3 months into testosterone, all of a sudden I feel awake, alive, I'm falling in love, I like my husband again, I want sex. Like
I love that. I hope he listens to this. I want sex.
Oh, he knows. He knows. It's not unique to me. That is what happens when women take testosterone. They have energy, they have their brain back, they want to go do things, they have motivation, they feel sexual energy. And when we talk about libido, it's not just sex. We're talking women want to connect. They want to be with their friends again. They want to make new friends. They want to go out. They want to do fun things. I get messages from women like pictures of them going on a first solo trip to Maine, eating a lobster roll at a lighthouse. And she's like, look at me, look at what testosterone's done for me, right? Like it's waking women up. And so you can read all the research studies, but that's what's interesting about me and the group is that we're looking at this in a massive real-time situations where it doesn't really matter what the research says. I could show you thousands and thousands of women that is what's happening, right? And I just think it's wild to me that women, it's not really wild. I mean, women we get shit done, right? We just create the solutions that we need. And women we're sick of feeling like crap. We're sick of feeling dead inside. And we're sick of waiting for the research that really put us in this place in the first place, right? I mean, we can't really trust anything, but we can trust other women's experiences. We can trust
and what we're finding is nobody wanted to talk about it, right? Nobody.
No.
I mean, it was the most taboo conversation. And finally, and it's interesting how celebrities start to talk about it. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second, that's me. But now what you're doing, not only the Naomi Watts and Halle Berry, but they're opening it up. And what you're saying is, even before they came out and started talking about it, you had already gone on 9 million on your TikTok. The first thing that, you weren't a person on there, you weren't doing anything around that. And there was such a need for a conversation around it. And you provided that. And then you opened it up with your Facebook group, giving people the ability to talk about this, share, right? Women like to share. I want to tell you about my experience. You tell me about yours. And as you said, then you can make a kind of that, all right, this makes sense for me, for my body. Yeah. I mean, I remember I was in a Facebook group and I was trying to figure out if I get a hysterectomy or not, because they found a tumor that we didn't know if it was cancerous, or it turned out last year they took it out. I did not have the hysterectomy because too many people were like, don't do it, Hilary. You don't need to do it. Let's go this path. But you have to do what's right for your own self. Yes, you have to do what's right for your own body. And now, where are you with this next rev of your next relaunch? Where are you going? Like, what's next for you? What's next for what you want to do from an impact perspective?
Well, we haven't even touched the surface yet. All of this happened just because it just happened. I had no plan. Here we are. It's wild to me that we're still even having this conversation. I mean, just 1 year after that video is when Oprah came out and started talking about menopause and reshared my story. And like I'm on her weight loss Hulu special. Like all of this is just happening so fast. And I did not have a plan for it. So just now is what I'm like, oh, what are we doing with this? And quite frankly,
trying to figure it
yeah,
out on the fly. Like, okay, there's something
yeah.
here. We know it. We have validation.
I mean, for me personally, I'd
Mm.
like to write another book because when I wrote my first book, I was still in my Mormon religion. I have since left my Mormon religion. I have since gained all this like new understanding of sexual energy and feminine energy. I didn't have any of that context before. So I'd
So
really
I know people are thinking, hold on, Hilary, you got to ask the question. So I will ask the question. You left the Mormon religion, and this all came after the run, the tears. You're like, I'm
was kind of part of
why
the
did you
whole process. But yeah,
tell us what happened there?
this is probably a whole other podcast, but quite frankly, when I started kind of losing myself before the hormone therapy, I lost myself, didn't know who I was. I started doing a lot of meditation to try to just sit
Mhm.
with myself and settle myself and kind of find myself. And in that, I came to an understanding that I'm not waiting for heaven anymore. I'm trying to earn heaven. And the Mormon religion teaches that we're here to be tested to earn our place in heaven. And I didn't subscribe to that anymore. And it was very bizarre. And um, it really, it changed everything. It was another relaunch. Like I live in the world for the first time. It feels like I feel like I'm a brand new human in this world and experiencing it in new ways that I never ever believed that I just every day feels like, oh my gosh, you guys have been out here doing this whole time. It just feels very new and exciting and thrilling, and to live without shame is a
Mm.
totally different way of living.
So Marcella, one of the things that I know people we're being we're being like it's the barrage of like everyone you should be meditating and there's there's still so many that come to me saying, Hilary, I got so much noise in my head. I can't do it. I can't do it. But you struggled with that as well.
Oh yeah.
We talked about this until like let's just talk about that. Let's give people something that they can actually focus on initially, which for me it's what I call in my book the pause principle. It's just slowing down enough so that you can hear and listen to yourself, because that intuition, that everything is within you. But you came at it in such an interesting way where you just kept giving yourself that time. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I had a significant situation where my oldest moved out to live with her dad, and that was another relaunch moment, or
She was how old?
a 15.
Yeah,
And
15 years old.
yeah, and
And
it
she decides, hey, I'm going to go
wasn't
live with
a
dad.
happy situation. It was like a F
Yeah.
you, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
And also on my part being like, great, like leave, and it was not my shiniest moment. It was
Mm.
devastating. And that was a moment where I thought, I don't know how to put this back together. Everything up to that point, it was like, oh, better goals, take better care of myself, like put it back together. You can't put that back together. Like she was out of my house and I didn't know how to be her mom when she wasn't here. And that
Mm.
forced me to figure out something else. I couldn't just, diet that
Right.
back together. And so
Right.
that launched me into sitting in the morning without, I traded my gym for sitting. And I would sit in the basement and I'd be like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how to turn off my brain because everybody's out here yelling that meditation is super beneficial and I can't figure out how to do it. And I sat in my basement in a crappy camping chair and I would time myself. I'd put like 5 minutes on the clock and I'd be like, okay, we're going to sit here and not think. And of course, it'd be like grocery
I
list,
love that part. That's what we all do. Don't think. Don't think.
stop thinking. And I'd be like grocery list and marketing and all the things. And then I'd be mad at myself. And then I'd do it the next day and the next day and the next day. And there was a period of time where I thought, this doesn't work for me. I can't do this. I'm too big.
How long? Wait. How long did you do when you were like, this doesn't work for me?
Probably two
How
weeks.
many,
About,
yeah.
probably about like, 8 sessions where I was like, maybe not. And then I remember going to a yoga class. I was like, maybe we need to go to the professionals. And I went to a yoga class, and this girl just happened to say the words, if you are somewhere else, if you are doing like grocery lists and things like that, I invite you to not shame yourself, allow those to be here, but just come back to your body. Like, you don't need to be doing that right now. Just walk yourself
It's a
back.
great way to
And I
say it.
was like, I love that. And then she also said, breathe louder, like focus on your breath. I could not breathe loud enough to dumb out my thoughts. Like, that was not working for me. And she finally said, if that doesn't work, she said, say in your mind, breathe, I am breathing in, I am breathing out. I am breathing in, I am breathing out. And I don't know why, but for me, that was a moment. That was a moment because my brain needed something to say, apparently. It needed something to say, it needed something to do. And as soon as I just gave it that, I am breathing in, I am breathing out, that is when I'm going to get emotional again. That is when all of a sudden the thoughts were gone. And I can honestly say, and then there I was. You exist differently when you know that you exist without thought, when you know you exist without money, without your house, without people, when you know that there you are in the middle of the day, laying on a mat with no thought and you exist, it changes everything. And
I just
all
got
of a
chills.
sudden, yeah, right? It just, I didn't have to pray one more prayer. I didn't have to serve one more person. I didn't have to bring another person a meal. I didn't need to go to church one more time. I existed. All of me existed. None of it was broken. And that threw me into understanding the power of meditation. And I would wake up earlier and earlier and earlier to practice just sitting and being, period. Right? Just being. And the truths that I got from just sitting, just from my own soul, were so significant. My life started changing drastically. Like, I started feeling discontent in some relationships. I started feeling growth in others. I started feeling quiet inside, right? Like, you talk about this tornado and the fluster of like figuring everything out, and it's so much stuff to figure out that all of a sudden it just got quieter and quieter and quieter. And now I live my same life. I live in my same house with my same people, with my same situations, and I exist very, very differently. Like, it's so quiet in here most of the time. And I think we try so hard to change everything outside of us, and we forget that we really can drastically change what's inside of us, and that changes your entire world without changing
Everything.
anything.
Ah, Marcella, you are such a beautiful soul. I mean, there's just, I'm sure people right now are saying, where can I find you? We've talked about your Wake Her Up Facebook group, but where else? What else can they do to be in contact with you?
Couple things. You can go to marcellahill.com and download the free intro to my book, and that's where you can find Wake Her Up is on Audible and Barnes and Noble. And then you can also go to wakeherup.co. That's where you're going to find all of the good stuff, like the blog, the podcast, the group.
And again, that's wakeherup.co, not com, everyone, just .co, and you will get there.
Yep. Yeah. And then obviously on social
Unbelievable.
media, you can find me at being Marcella Hill.
Being Marcella Hill, which these days is pretty darn good. I love it. Well, again, I am so privileged to have you in my world now. And I do have something exciting to share with everyone, because before we wrap up, I want to remind our listeners about something that we're putting together. and it's coming up. It's called the Midlife Relaunch, Candid Conversations on Hormones, Menopause, Empowerment. You're going to be a part of it. Dr. Michelle Sands is going to be a part of it. It's happening November 11th, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to share everything about it. You're going to want to tune in for this because as you were talking, there were so many more questions, so many more important discussions that we need to be having. And there's going to be ways for people to send in questions for that. What's relevant to what's happening now? What changes are on the market right now? What's the direction? Where are we going? How can people do all of this now? So super excited for that event. I
It's gonna
mean,
be
oh my gosh.
so good. I think
Oh my
I
gosh. And it's coming up. It's like November 11th. It's like 11/11, which is such a perfect date to have this happen. And we're going to make sure to share that with everybody.
it's gonna be so good. And it's gonna be different than I know a lot of menopause conferences are happening. A lot of these things are happening. This is gonna be different because what I talk about is listening to yourself. Everyone's looking for the buy now button. Everyone's looking for that next trick. And what I hope women come to get out of it is themselves. I hope they leave being hopeful that, oh, there I am. That's really what we're looking for. You're looking for
Wow.
you. And that's what I hope you get enough answers to go take some action, but also leave feeling like, oh, I'm not lost. Oh, I'm still here. That's what we're doing.
And you know what? And that's why we the three of us are gonna get into things that aren't normally discussed. And it's not I talk a lot about the head, the heart, the highest self, right? We're gonna talk head. We're gonna talk from Dr. Michelle, about what really is going on. We're gonna talk heart, getting to know yourself, but really putting it all together so that the highest self, your soul, making sure you can relaunch into you and that next best version of you, which is so desperately waiting inside to come out. So, super glad to have you here. And I always say, live now, love now, relaunch now. And there's no better time than to go check out Marcella Hill, check out what she's working on, what she's talking about, so that today can be the day that you're like, wait a second, I'm not crazy. I don't need to keep this, with just within myself. I can talk about it. I can ask the questions. And you have to be your own advocate. You have to be the one that's leading the charge because nobody else will. So, Marcella, big hugs to you, girl. So excited to see you again soon.
What an honor to be here. Thank you so, so much for having me and giving me space to tell my story.
Thanks again. And don't forget, everyone, we will be back next week with another relaunch journey. See you then. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.